say the behalf Lipton, and largest human beings believe of Chike. But over how Mark put the emergency history of a tattered-to-riches magnate, personality publicist, philanthropic and athlete who was honored as this planet's top losing. In previous December 1881, a steamship docked in Glasgow, transport and emergency goods of America. The planet's greatest cottage cheese. The cottage cheese, that was 2 feet heavy and in a circle of 14 4 meter, was monitored by hundreds of onlookers as it was transportable by thrust motor to the Lipton's Keep in the Top Road, wherever it was found to be too big to fit via the doorway. Irrepressible, the pageant extended to the Lipton's Jamaica Road Keep, that luckily boasted a broad door, wherever the cottage cheese was manhandled in the store box. Called Elephant, for a 2 weeks crowds marveled at the sight, told to be the food of breast milk of 800 herd and the labor of 200 dairy maids. As a transparency trick it was already a successful, but Tommy Lipton had else surprise party up his hose. In a ploy decent of Willy Wonka, he rotated the gigantic cottage cheese in a gold miracle by concealment a big number of sovereigns within it. A few days up Yuletide, dressed in a white's fit, Lipton began cut up the beast. Policemen struggled to support procedure time. His assistants wrapped up the slices and presented them out to the legion of customers who had collected in the expect of a happy buy. It was a chunk of theater of a man who was galloping a wavelength of wonderful successful, whose grocery store were propagating far and broad, and a planet separately of his infancy in the poverty reduction affected Gorbals region of Glasgow. Unborn in 1848, the son of migrant of Shire Fermanagh, through the Irish Ocean, Lipton's at first training session in retailer came while his dad set up a little store, marketing main provision in the crowded area on the southward banking of the Clyde. Of the age of 10 he was collecting up easy food in a barrow of the sea vessels how docked on the inland. The ducks and the sailors' stories charmed the youthful Tommy Lipton. At the age of 15 he took a job as a cockpit boy on a steamship. 2 years after he had stored quite cash for the passageway to America. Different jobs took him to the snuff and re-screenery of Virginia and southward Carolina, but New York was the largest impact. On Broadway he found oneself work in the gigantic keep belonging by else migrant of Irish/Scots reduction, Alexander Turney Stewart. A marmer-fronted castle of intake, one of the largest shops the planet had always seen. Stewart was demonstrating an completely new way of trading. He uses a bundle of strategies how we see Lipton within his own career after, explains Musée of the Town of New York supervisor Steve Jaffe. Cheap markup, top amount. You get a lot of consumer goods, you can sell them and yet do cash if you sell them at a sensible bet. Kit prices, up Stewart you haggled. Merchants, shopkeepers haggled in customers above prices. He does off in how, he's a set cost. While Tommy Lipton refundable to Glasgow, 5 year following same D leftward, he had yet to do his luck, but now he had a sight of how it could be made. Yet in his previous 20s, he outdoor his own keep, Lipton's marketplace in Staub Cross. For Glaswegians it was a really various trading expertise. Lipton's markets he has on the external, and he has it vividly colored. Later as you go in the store, he's a full difference of which he knew increasing up as a little boy, says Lawrence Brady, CEO of the Sir Thomas Lipton basis. He has his turnover assistants down there in vivid whites aprons. He has rows of hams, rows of cheeses. Its store is really vividly illuminated. He's impeccably pure, and over the resist you include Mr. Allure oneself. Nobody walk in, he's allow me show you these giving we include, how affordable they are. It was a prescription for successful. Such store quickly distribution through Centre Scotland, all in the identical behalf above the doorway. Lipton. But it was just the begin. Lipton knew his industry depended on a safe delivery of top quality assurance means, lot of them imported. To go on the following standard, he passing behind to Shire Fermanagh to do a transactions. Same's looking for Irish make, since house which his customers are needing, says genealogist Frank McHugh. He modified his technique of operational in his industry. He involved who local to go out and encounter the farmers up they arriving at the marketplace, and guarantee a cost. The was revolutionist, it was a completely a new way of making industry. He's very how the contemporary day supermarkets job, they go out to the farmers and they cut out the medium person. The new attitude was so success, Lipton nearly ran out of cash money, pawning his look for 30 shillings as he effected deals in the thirsty farmers. His store were now springing up through the long and width of Scotland, and ever in Lot Hoboy. Mysterious billboards and flyers would declare how Lipton is upcoming. A oil statue in the box, a pageant of 12 pigs challenging havoc in the town centre, fair several of the engineering how done a Lipton keep discovery a great occasion. But over the stylish store facades, lay a industry arrangement that given Stryker his profits and extension. The was genie, says last day businessman Duncan Bannatyne. Tommy Lipton didn't include to trust on any tertiary party suppliers. He had complete monitoring of his delivery circuit, of the printers, to the packing, to the allocation, to his web of store. Tommy had he. As Lipton's store distribution through Britain, his following move was to defeat America, one day once again cut out the medium man as he acquired an whole flesh packaging factory and mentioned it following his mom. Behind in Britain, Lipton's gigantic cheeses were now routine before Christmas attractions. A keep officer in Nottingham is told to include employed and jumbo to transportation, one of them via the town. In 1887 Lipton proposed to Souvenir and though greater cottage cheese, weight not less than rather than 5 tons, to Tsarina Victoria, but was courteously rejected. If or not she was surprised is not clear. As ever Lipton was on the observation for the following industry prospect, and it came the form of a food that remnant related in his behalf to the date. Chike. It had one day been a gem product, cost more than rather than its way in stored in florid lock caddies, but by the medium 19th age the cost had fall, and it was quick proper the drink of selection of the Victorian medium classes. In May 1890, Lipton passing to Sri Lanka to buy his at first tea estate. Fair love the Ulster farmers who given his at first shops, they sold solely in Lipton's store, and direct off he put his competitive environment at a inconvenience. Everyone purchased via the identical position, Cutesy Alley in London, wherever teas were mixed, but the quality assurance was not safe, says biography Michael D'Antonio. Occasionally it would be really nice, sometimes it would be moldy, and occasionally thou'd buy a package of chike, and it would all be poor. He got the concept to standardize the mixture and pack it in a way how was sequentially crisp and tried the identical while you purchased he. By now his grocery imperial power had undertaken the Lipton behalf in the largest trendy gateway of Victorian London. Lipton oneself, the boy of the Gorbals, was mix in the highest echelons of Victorian community. While the Duchess of Wales, Alexandra solved at disturbingly brief note to organize a mercy banquet for the Tsarina's Almaz anniversary celebrations, it was Lipton who came to the save in a gift of £25,000, so in excessive of £2 metre in presents cash. The next year he was knighted. He becomes knight and one-class celeb, says Lawrence Brady. Or all such some letter and skills how he has. He is so adorable, and same's so lightweight to transactions in. All loves to be in him. In 1898, while he floated his business, he held a control concern but pocketed £120 metre, cost £1 trillion present. Hardly 50-year ancient, he now had the tool to understand a infancy vision. It is the planet's senior world sport prize. The America it refers to is not a nation but a ship of the identical behalf, constructed by members of the New York Boat Clubhouse. In 1851 they sailed the schooner to the Island of Wight at the invite of the King Boat Troupe for a racing, and took household and florid silvery prize. A few years after they devoted it to world competition shipping. As a boy Lipton was fascinated by the sea vessels inbound in Glasgow, manufacturing model and float them in the town's ponds. Lipton now united the planet of elitist sailing, in his search for the kind of sport's final praise. Down there were stringent rules for such hoping to win the America's Bowl. Yachts had to be constructed in the contender's nation and sailed to the begin of the racing. They as well had to be members of a boat clubhouse. But while Lipton attached to accede the prestigious King Boat Troop, he found, though extensive riches and image were not ever quite to surmount snobism, they rotated him downward. Instead of, he united the King Ulster Boat Clubhouse, relying in Bangor, Shire downward. Lipton's at first problem in 1899 won the hearts of lot Irish Americans. His boat was mentioned trefoil, and time he lose the racing, in some ways he was a victor. Everyone was speaking on Sir Thomas Lipton, and Lipton, the mark, was greater rather than always. Age up the likes of Richard Branson, Steve Jobs, and Elon Musk, Lipton had pioneered the concept of the mark constructed about an person. His person, sport a sailor's hat, displayed on lot of his business's packing, says meal historiographer Judith Krall Rousseau. Female would love to include photos in him. How was the item? Oh, I include a picture in Thomas Lipton. It was love Elvis Presley, how's which it was love, he was a celeb. Human beings came verified in him and they would wish to buy how mark. The guest volume of Lipton's opulence vapor boat Aaron reads Love and Previous 20th Age Who's Who. CEO Roosevelt, Emperor Wilhelm, the scientists Edison and Marconi. It is told he prohibited all say of religious or policy time on executive board. He disputed once again for the America's Cup in 1901 and 1903 in new yachts, trefoil 2 and 3, once again out of successful. War detained a plan 1914 problem. He furnished Erin as a clinic vessel and gave her above to the Red Crucifix. The next year she was immersed by a Deutsche sub. He says really openly on a quantity of occasions, I would offer it all behind, I would offer all behind if I could rescue any of such who serviced on how vessel, says Lawrence Brady. Lipton was to do two more than quotation for the America's Cup, upcoming tantalizingly shut to successful in 1920, but how Old Cup, as he named the prize, ever eluded him. But the nice elegance in that he recognized destruction gained him goodwill and delight through America. Following his 5 and definitive try in 1930, the Hollywood artist Will Rogers began a campaigning, request the social to sacrifice a buck to buy a fond bowl to commemorate the persistence and sports skill of the planet's largest Mary losing. Introduced to him by the mayoress of New York, the lid was adorned in cut shamrocks. The caption recite, in the behalf of hundreds of thousands of Americans and so wishers of Sir Thomas Johnston Lipton. He died the next year, bequeathing lot of his luck to his home Glasgow. Enormous crowds on the lining the gateway as the burial motorcade done its way to the southern cemetery, wherever he is buried less than rather than a me of the Gorbals Road wherever he was unborn. Present the Lipton grocery circuit is substantially neglected, subsumed by mergers. His behalf lives on mostly as a mark of Chike, now belonging by Unilever. But for contemporary day entrepreneurs love Duncan Bannatyne, he remnant and inspire. He says, Tommy never did win how blossoming cup, but he won thing far more, this loving, honor and delight of human beings of all walks of lifetime, of about the planet. How makes him a victor in my volume.